Hi, this is Jacob Anderson, and today I'm going to talk about the Shopsmith speed control. I'm going to show you all of the component parts of it and what to look for when you decide if it's got a problem or not. Lots of people think the speed control has a problem, but there's other things that affect the speeds on the Shopsmith Mark V, but I want to show you the various parts of the Shopsmith speed control. This is one that's all together. Basically, the worm gear is turned with your handle, and it adjusts the quadrant here, which lets the sheave spread apart and lets your speeds change through the belts. So all the parts of it have to be in pretty good shape. So I'll show you one that's completely taken apart and talk about each part and how they go back together. So this here is what I call the body of the speed control. It's totally stripped down. There's a small stop bolt that goes into it. This is supposed to be for a high-speed stop to keep you from turning too far. When you turn too far, the worm gear gets off the rack and it starts hitting physically. This spreads the sheave too far apart, and your belt can bind between the sheave halves, so you can adjust the speed stop so that your quadrant is stopped here, so you don't end up coming off here. Also, the button on your control sheave can come off of this if it goes too far. So I usually have the stop set early at the speed of U or V. I don't even let it go all the way up to high speed because you're not going to use your Shopsmith as a router or a shaper. So that speed stop is in place. There's a small bushing that is very frequently lost. I get lots of machines in that have that little thing missing. Then there's this, which I call the planetary gear. It's got a flat side and a rounded side. And the rounded side has to go down over that bushing. I find that backwards lots of times. If the round side is up, it can wear the teeth on your speed control handle prematurely. So put it with the flat side up, round side down. Then there's a lock nut that goes over those things. I'm not going to talk about adjusting this anymore, but that's how it looks. Should turn fine, shouldn't slop around. Alright, now for the worm gear. There's a copper brass sleeve that goes into the speed control. The flange is on the inside, and it's flat here. I like to put a couple drops of oil here, and then the worm gear comes through like that. Then there's three parts. There's a little wavy washer. There's a bigger flat washer. I should have put those on before I did this part, so they can lay down underneath it. And then a retaining clip goes over. Need a pretty special little, let's see, grab my screwdriver. So it's pushed all the way down into the little groove, and you can tell by pushing in if it can't move, then you've got it all together correctly. The worm gear, if you're checking out your speed control and turning it, if it feels hard one way, hard half the turn, easy half the turn, hard half the turn, easy half the turn, the worm gear is bent, so you want to replace your worm gear. Alright, then the next thing to install will be the quadrant. And there's a big roll pin, goes into that. I use just a little bench by angle. bench anvil to install it. My holes weren't quite lining up there. Pause it. Alright, so the roll pin goes all the way through like that. Now a lot of people think when they see the worm gear and the quadrant it's not quite centered. That's okay. It really needs to be slightly above the halfway point like you see there, because your control shiv button is going to rest near the top of this, not in the center. And then as you tighten your upper belt, it moves the control shiv button down some. So you kind of need some room for it to move. So you don't want the quadrant to be higher up, because then it puts you in the center to start with and you can end up dropping down too far. So that's what a speed control looks like reassembled. So now you can see what parts there should be, in case you're missing any. I don't really sell any of these. I buy the quadrants and the worm gears from Shopsmith. All these other little pieces are available from them too. But chances are you're probably either missing little pieces, or this is bent, or the speed control is or the quadrant is damaged. And here's examples of some damage. Here the teeth are extremely worn off. This one is starting to go. I'd probably replace it if it looks like this. But something like this is okay. There's just a little distortion there. You can keep using that one. If the speeds move up by themselves through the machine's vibration, then, like they would on these, then replace your quadrant. And on the back side of the quadrant, look for damage from a frozen control shift bearing. If the control shift bearing seizes, the button is spinning and it starts damaging this strip. So here's a little damage. Here's a lot more damage on this one. And I've seen them even burned all the way through, where somebody kept using their machine even though they were hearing all this horrendous noise and metal on metal grinding. I've seen them just burn totally right through. So don't go that far. If you start hearing any metal on metal action, go ahead, even this one, just stop and investigate, because you'll cause yourself more damage. Alright, so that's an overview of the speed control. It's attached with 3 bolts and a spring. It's attached to the Shopsmith headstock with 3 bolts that look like this. Make sure you have a washer under it. 3, and then this front one has this spring here underneath, and that keeps some pressure on the speed control handle so that it won't rotate up in speed just from engine motor vibrations. So some people are missing any of these or that. So that's how it's attached to the headstock. Alright, and go to my website. You'll find tons of information there. I do work on these machines. I sell some of the repair parts. I have a web store as well that you can access through this website. If you want to buy parts, if you want to send in components for evaluation or repair, or if you want to send in your headstock for repair, you can find me through my website, and I'll be happy to help you. Alright, thank you.